and now we're live. Julio. So I did hear about the Biden essentially being shit talked by the mother of the Marine that got killed. Biden. This whole mess is actually Biden's fault. Trump had a deal. And these people, they may be third world, they may have a very primitive culture, but they care greatly and deeply about promises and agreements. It's actually a very common feature of primitive cultures is to rely very heavily on agreements.
Keeping your word. I guess what did Biden? I guess he was afraid Trump would get all the credit if he stuck to the original deal and had a successful exit. I mean, you would think he would try to take credit for it, but I guess he wanted to say, well, this was my deadline, so I got us out of here, even though he messed it all up.
Yeah, if we had pulled out before May 1st, everything would have been fine. But Biden decided May 1st wasn't significant enough. It was too fast, and September 11th is when we should pull out of there because of symbolism.
Yeah, not the best way to handle strategic decisions based on things that aren't strategic, that are just more for optics, I guess.
Yeah. I don't know how the world came to that, to where it's just do things in a certain optical format and it's okay.
Yeah, that's a big part of politics, but if you're going to do it, at least get good results while doing it. Don't make things worse. But I don't know. I mean, part of me thinks that there's some that they want people to turn against Biden. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, that is an interesting theory. I've actually had this theory that leftists, a lot of leftists at the top are actually plants, because they seem to screw over their own position more often than not.
Well, there was a poll out that said, for whatever polls are worth, but that said 20% of people that voted for Biden as of this week supposedly regret voting for him.
Yeah. The podcast of the Lotus Eaters, they brought up that 51% of people, according to Rasmussen, they mentioned this the other day, but I didn't go and look. But according to Rasmussen, 51% of people now believe that there was fraud that took place during this election. I mean, that doesn't really mean anything. An idea can be very popular and can be wrong at the same time. But the fact that 51% of people believe it probably came from the fact that it happened. In this instance, anyway. 2016, no. 2020,
I think despite the fact that everything you hear is no, there was no evidence of widespread voter fraud. I think even with the narrative being tightly controlled, there's enough alternative media out there and enough evidence, signs, whatever you want to call it, that show that there was something going on, especially Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Pennsylvania, where all of a sudden Biden gained 250,000 votes to zero for Trump, just magically overnight.
Yeah. Yeah. it was shown that several of the Dominion voting machines would just flip all votes for Trump over to Biden. So it didn't matter who was voted for. Biden would win from that machine by 100-0.
Well, it's funny how that always seems to go one way. It never flips a Democrat vote to a Republican, right?
Yeah, it is interesting. Because if it did happen both ways, that would just be like, an error. We could understand that. But it's always flipping from Republican to Democrat. And we already know that the Democrats are criminals. It's not like it's even a secret. I mean, the Democrats themselves don't even bother hiding anymore. They haven't for a long time.
Yeah, and I think it's what did they say? I believe they said in Arizona that there was something like over 100,000 ballots were mailed to the wrong address.
Yeah. I was seeing all sorts of shit last year about mailmen being arrested for tampering with mail. I was seeing all sorts of, like, there were whistleblowers from the Postal Service who came out and were like, hey, look, this isn't a bottom down thing. This is actually a conspiracy that goes all the way to the top. We are being ordered to fuck with the mail on ballots. So it's like, there's a lot of shit going on with the mail service itself. And we've got about 200 court cases involving mailmen who have tampered with the mail during the election.
Who do you think, I mean, I'm sure there are, there are some good people in the Postal Service, but I would bet 75 to 80% of them are voting for leftists.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
That is the funny thing. I support having a mail service, but it's like they're treating the post office the same way they treat the military. It needs an expanded budget every year, otherwise it collapses.
Yeah, they're trying to compete with FedEx and UPS and all these other services, but what they keep doing is raising the price and giving you slower service. That's not a recipe for turning things around. I mean, I think they even said recently that they're going to do exactly that. They're going to raise their prices, and certain mail services are going to slow down in terms of delivery time. So instead of taking 3 days, it might take 4 days, 5 days, and you're paying more.
Yeah. I thought it was ridiculous how much it costs to ship small packages using USPS.
Yeah, I mean, I would say one of the good things that they do have is they do have those flat rate boxes where it's you pay X amount and whatever you can fit in there ships for that amount. I mean, that's a pretty good deal. But if you're not using one of those, it can get quite expensive. Yeah, they're probably going to block us for
the one time I tried using USPS for shipping, they actually didn't have any of those boxes there.
Oh, of course.
I had to pay for a bag, like one of those foam bag things, bubble wrap foam bag, and it's almost like a vanilla envelope, but it's a shipping container. But yeah, I had to pay for that, and then I had to pay for postage, and it was like, this is more than the shit that I just sold on eBay.
Right.
I'm actually paying more to get rid of the shit I just sold than I got from selling.
Yeah, and I've run into that before where you buy something for $20 and the shipping's $25.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I guess, but
And sometimes people try to get around that. They'll sell you like especially on eBay. This happened quite a bit. Quite a bit. I avoided items and sellers like this, but I saw it all the time. People would have something that's normally like $50, and they'd be selling it for $1. But then you go to buy it, and the shipping is like $49. So you're paying the full price that you'd get it for brand new, and you're getting it used, and for the same price. It's ridiculous.
yeah, pretty much. It's just trickery, you know.
Although I have also had a lot of good luck on web shopping.
Hmm.
Like I bought a Wii once, and it was just the Wii. It wasn't the controller or any of the plugs or anything. I had plugs already, and I got a controller separately. But when the Wii came, there was a game inside of it, and that game is worth about a third of what I paid for the Wii. And the Wii was cheaper.
You think the person just forgot to take it out, basically?
I think the person forgot to take it out, or maybe they didn't even know it was in there.
That's funny. Yeah, I mean, I think some of the games, like some of the Wii games, sell for like $40 or $50 secondhand now. If if you still have those from back in the day, I know. I gave mine away a few years ago to my nieces, so they have it. So they can get some cash for it, I guess. But
yeah, another time I actually bought a Dreamcast.
I remember that. Yeah,
yeah, the Dreamcast is amazing. But it was supposed to be a bundle, and keep in mind, around this time, the Dreamcast itself cost about $85, like just for the console. Hey, I always forget how to pronounce this.
Lacrime.
Well, Lacrime. I actually never knew how to pronounce it. Sorry.
Well, I could be wrong. Maybe it's Lacrime. But yeah, thanks for joining us. Yeah.
But yeah, so I bought it. Normally during this time, the Dreamcast, just the console, would go for about $85. So I found this bundle. It was the Dreamcast, 3 controllers, 2 memory cards, and 10 games, and all the hookup connections and all that, for $85 and $5 on shipping. So it was like definitely worth it for me to get that. And when it showed up, everything was there, but there were 2 extra games, and both of those games cost almost as much as the console itself, like on their own, if I was to buy them on their own.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, I'm just looking at GameStop's website right now, and it says sold out, but they were selling obviously pre-owned Dreamcast for $75 now.
Yeah, $75, and that's just the console. I mean, exactly. That might have all the connections. That might have 1 controller, but that's basically just the console. That's not the games.
Yeah, so the controllers are $14.99, and some of the games are like $15, $20, $30.
Yeah,
$25 for the memory card.
Oh wow! So yeah, I got a really good deal.
Yeah, that's interesting. How long ago did you make that purchase?
That was December 2017, I believe.
Okay, so it wasn't that long ago.
Yeah.
Because well, I'm trying to remember the Dreamcast was like 200 when it first came out. I think maybe
Yes, it was pretty expensive. I think it was more expensive than the PlayStation 2 when that came out. Of
let me
course, the
see.
Dreamcast came out before the PS2. The
So
Dreamcast
the
was the first 128-bit console, if I recall correctly.
so it actually came
How much
out
stuff?
about almost a year before it came out in the United States and in Japan.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, the introductory price was 199 in the United States.
Um,
So
199.
yeah, which obviously that's $199 in 20 plus years ago dollars. Not
Yeah.
now. So I mean that would probably be 250, 300 in with inflation.
Yeah, that's very true. But then again, people also really don't like the Dreamcast for some reason. Oh, I have seen Dreamcast games going for $150.
That's crazy. I mean, I don't even know anybody that still plays it, but I mean,
Oh,
obviously
I
there's
I still play it. I still
you
play it.
still play it.
I still play it.
I
That's
know.
why I got.
I know they say that the Mario Kart for Nintendo 64 still sells for a pretty decent price, like probably like 80 to $100 you can get for that if you put it up on eBay.
I've seen it go as low as like $60.
It's funny that the Dreamcast is one of the few consoles that I never had. I even had back in the day. I don't know if you remember this one, the Sega Saturn.
See, I've never had a Saturn. I've
Yeah,
never actually gotten a chance to play the Saturn, but I am aware of the Saturn.
yeah, that was a fun one. I believe that was the one before the Dreamcast. I think the
Yeah,
Dreamcast
that was a
replaced the
32-bit
Saturn.
console that was. It came right after the Genesis. Right after the Genesis came out with the 32-bit expansion pack thing.
That's right, and they did have there was the Sega 32X.
Yeah, that's the thing I was thinking of.
Yeah.
2X, that's what it was.
Oh yeah, no, I actually if you see Lacrame's comments, I'm incorrect. According to Anomaly, it takes 15 months for inflation to hit. So yeah, I have
Yeah.
to stand corrected. Yeah. Of course, Anomaly is an expert in inflation, so I have to.
Yeah, he's full of hot air.
He's still talking about Trump. I don't know.
Dude, why is it people that hate Trump that won't shut up about it? For real.
He just did a number on people's psyches. I don't know. I mean, I supported him. I voted for him both times. I'm disappointed he didn't win, and maybe he'll run again. I don't know, but I
I
mean,
don't
I'm not.
know. You voted for the winner. It's just you can't win when the numbers are rigged. Trump was the most popular president in history. He had more votes than anyone else in history. Biden just has a whole bunch of dead people voting for him.
Yeah, it was funny. Somebody pointed out that in Michigan, I think it was Michigan, they have more registered voters than their population of people that are 18 and over,
Wow.
which
Yeah.
which
Yeah,
is almost
yeah.
impossible because in any state that you look at, not everybody's registered to vote. So you're probably going to have 15 to 20% of the eligible population isn't even registered to vote, let alone actually voting.
Yeah.
So it's a bit strange. I guess they I'm, I know they've had a lot of people move out of Michigan, so maybe they just keep them on the rolls. I don't know. I mean, but
Speaking of Michigan, have you ever actually seen video of the inside of Detroit?
oh, I remember it's been a few years, but I think Steven Crowder did a pretty good video about Detroit and driving through some of the just completely abandoned neighborhoods where the houses are in disrepair or they're like half demolished and crumbling, and it's sad.
Yeah, yeah, Detroit. Looking at videos of Detroit is like looking at post-apocalyptic movie scenery.
I mean, you could buy a house there for $1 if you want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
But I mean, that's what happens when you go from the 1950s and 60s when they had millions of people living there to 600,000 people now.
Detroit is an example of what happens when you let Democrats run things.
Pretty much. Pretty much. I
Uh,
mean, it was the basically
I gotta go
the.
real quick. I'll be right back. All right.
All right. Well, yeah, just talking about Detroit. Back in the day, that was basically the middle class capital of the United States at the time until the unions started really hammering a lot of the auto companies and giving the employees lifetime benefits that couldn't be sustained, and a lot of the companies eventually fell in sales to a lot of the imported cars and companies doing business in right to work states where they could operate for a much lower cost of doing business, or building factories in Mexico, even Canada. I know General Motors has factories in both Mexico and Canada. Um, it's very interesting. But yeah, really, really sad what's happened to Detroit. I mean, it was really, a great American city, great, great culture, great titans of industry. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
Detroit's where Motown came from.
yeah. I mean, Detroit was like where it was at, man, back in the 50s and 60s. So
Motown
in
started back in like the 50s and 60s. If it weren't for Detroit, we wouldn't have had CeeLo Green and his band group Gnarls Barkley, which put out some amazing hits, by the way.
Okay, so in the 1950 census, or at least in the population count, I don't know if they officially did a census back then, but the population of Detroit in 1950 was just under 2 million. It was about 1.85 million in the city of Detroit. And as of the 2020 census, the population of Detroit stood at 639,000. So basically, one
Wow.
third, two-thirds of the population of Detroit in 1950 is no longer there.
In 1960, there were, I believe, a little bit over 2 million people living in Baltimore. Today, there's uh, around 600,000.
Yeah, like Lockerbie said, look at any Democrat-led city, New York, Chicago, Baltimore. Much like wokeness, anything Democrat-led turns to what.
Yeah.
Which is I made a video yesterday about the upcoming California recall election, where I don't understand. I mean, I'm not a super genius. Why people don't look at the results? I mean, for all the talk of Democrats everywhere where they're in charge, it sucks. People, you have to end up moving to a place run by Republicans, conservatives. You know, and those places aren't perfect, but they're a hell of a lot better to live than California or New York or Illinois. People leave those places. So why do people keep voting for the same thing? I don't get it. It's gotta be I guess the people are given just enough crumbs by the elite that it just keeps them from revolting.
Yeah, it's not going to work for too much longer. I had a helicopter fly over, by the way, just now. Like, straight path over my house.
Well, it's because they heard us talking about the election, so they just want to try to scare you. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, things are really very dystopian right now. I saw a meme like yesterday. It had a picture of Joe Biden, and it said, "Help stop Trump and the Republicans. Demand an audit to prove that Biden won."
Right. I mean,
yeah, the manner in which Biden got elected is just it's obviously fraudulent. Trump had we would have basically had to have doubled the number of registered voters from the last election, from the 2016 election, and we don't have enough people to have doubled that.
I mean,
not in the U.S.
The guy didn't even campaign.
Yeah, he didn't. He didn't campaign.
I mean, I think Kamala Harris came here to Arizona to Phoenix, and there was nobody there. There was literally like 10 people there. Trump comes here and there's 10,000 people inside and 20,000 people waiting outside that couldn't get in.
Yeah, and there's like people crammed in together because they just want to get a look at Trump.
Yeah, I actually not in the last election, but in 2016, I actually went to one of the Trump events that he had in Phoenix, and it was awesome. It's the only time I've ever seen well, he wasn't president at the time, but at least somebody that went on to become president, and it was really cool. It was great energy, great to be around a lot of like-minded people, and to say that 4 years later, well, he gets more votes than the first time, but loses the election to a guy who couldn't even get out of a primary the other times he ran for president, and now all of a sudden, he's the winner supposedly. So
I remember during the election, during the day of the election, I was up all night long watching the numbers, watching a live stream, and just paying close attention. And as the numbers for Trump were just so much higher than for Hillary, I was like, okay, this is feeling kind of good. It feels like he's gonna win. And then he won. And I spent the next like 3 hours, so from like midnight to 3 a.m., I was just drinking, celebrating. Because
I remember, yeah, that was
we dodged a huge bullet. Hillary would have just started World War III basically if she had the chance.
Yeah, it would have been a complete disaster. I mean, Trump was definitely right for the time. I mean, I remember at a certain point, it seemed like they stopped giving updates of the vote count. It was like because it was so apparent that Trump was going to win, and it's like they stopped giving updates. There was like a 2 hour period where nothing updated.
Yeah, we would have seen something similar to that this election had we not had the mail-in ballots thing. Of course, the mail-in ballots are really what this took place in. Trump would have won by a landslide if it weren't for all the fraud. And we know for a fact that a lot of these ballots didn't show up until the day after the election.
Right, I think it was in some places
that there was a lot of ballots that didn't show up until after the election had ended. And people defend this to this day by saying, "Oh well, because they were mail-in, they just didn't show up on time, and it takes a while to count." So even though it really
I think it was in some places they were accepting ballots up to like 9 days after the election. It's like,
yeah, that's not okay. That's not okay at all. The election ended. But there were news stories about ballots being found at like 3 a.m. the day after the election ended. And it's like, oh, this is a significant number of ballots, so we need to include it. Like, I wonder how many of them are labeled Mr. Man and Lady Ladington.
Yeah, it's
John
like
Doe, you know.
it seems like there's a consistent pattern in some of these states where things have been called into question, where they basically wait for all the areas outside of the big cities to report their results, which obviously are more favorable to Trump. And it shows, Trump has a lead of X amount of votes. And then it's like, it's almost like at that point, they say, okay, well, we need to make up this amount of votes. So then they start reporting the votes from the big cities, and somehow it's always enough to, cancel out the votes of the rest of the state.
Yeah. It's really ridiculous because the rural areas actually outnumber the cities, which actually should mean that the representation in the electoral college outweighs that of the cities. Really,
it should. I mean, especially if you look at just take Texas for example. All of the cities in Texas are blue. It's just everywhere else in Texas that's 80%, 90% Republican. So it balances out a lot of the big cities. But Houston, Dallas, Austin, San Antonio, El Paso, all of those cities, if you look at the maps, they're all blue. Most of the suburbs are more divided, and then most of the rural areas are pretty red. And that's pretty much most states. I mean, most big cities, almost all big cities are blue. The outlying areas are more red, and the rural areas are almost all red, except in maybe certain parts of like New England.
Yeah. It's interesting though because Texas is one of the more peaceful states, despite having some of the loosest gun laws. But that's just total made up nonsense if you ask a leftist.
Well,
they have to be peaceful with each other because there are so many guns, and people don't seem to understand that.
Well, what do they say? An armed society is a polite society.
Yeah, an armed society is a polite society.
Well, here in Arizona, we don't have a very high violent crime rate, and here you can conceal carry without a permit, you can open carry without a permit. So we've had constitutional carry in Arizona for over 10 years, and You know, we're not Chicago, we're not Baltimore, we're not, you know, DC.
Yeah, I'm
It's
actually very surprised because Oregon has open carry laws. You are allowed to open carry. I don't think they have a concealed carry law, but you're allowed to open carry. And during the whole Portland riots, I never saw anyone open carrying in opposition to Antifa.
yeah. I mean, Portland's tough because it's like, I mean, if you look at the precinct map, there's not going to be a lot of people in, I would guess, in Portland City that are going to be partaking in open carrying. So it would mostly be people in the outlying areas. So unless they actually go out of their way to go into Portland, you're not going to see a lot of those people. I mean, especially with all that going on. I mean, I would stay the hell away from there if I live there.
Is see, I've been to Portland before, Portland, Oregon, and the city itself, like even the dense part of the city, is still like uh, very diffuse. It's very dispersed across a large area. Uh, the densest portions are basically like suburbs in other cities.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's not so compact like New York or LA or, you know, even a place like Houston. Um, I mean, I've been there, but just, you know, looking at it on a map, it definitely looks that way. Um, very. I mean, the whole politics of the Northwest is very strange. Is that
Yeah.
they're very far left, but they're also one of the, or Portland and Seattle are two of the whitest big cities, but they're also very very left. So they're in a lot of ways, you know, like, well, why would they be so supportive of BLM? Well, I guess because they don't have to deal with the the crime and such that comes from other big cities.
Speaking of Seattle, uh, well, Washington State actually has a mutual combat law as well as open carry. So you can technically open carry a gun in Washington, and you can, as long as they also consent.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm surprised they still have them. I'm surprised they haven't done away with that.
Yeah, you ever hear of the real life superhero movement?
I'm not, can't say I'm familiar with it. No.
It there was an HBO documentary on it back in like 2010. Got a mosquito. But there were people all across the states that have just been dressing up like superheroes and fighting crime. And if you've seen Kick-Ass 2, you know how there's that gay superhero that doesn't wear a mask, and there's the parent superheroes who are looking for their son. Those are based on real people.
I remember there was a meme a couple years ago. There was a guy on like Dr. Phil or something that thought he was Batman, and he would literally dress up as Batman and go around, and I don't know.
Wow. Um, but yeah, the real life superhero thing in Washington, there was a guy who basically started a Justice League of real life superheroes in Washington State, and he was caught on camera once, almost a decade ago, well, about half a decade ago. He was caught on camera challenging a drunk dude to a fight and then beating the crap out of this guy in front of the police.
Oh,
Yeah.
Now, are these just
And
like vigilantes or what?
this guy, well, they're not like vigilantes. They do pay attention to the law, but some of them, like that guy actually ended up getting arrested for hard drugs. He was apparently not satisfied with the superhero life and decided to deal the drugs that he confiscated off of others. But some of them are more like vigilantes, and most of them are more like just citizens patrolling, like
Interesting.
security guards.
It's kind of like a statewide neighborhood watch or something.
Yeah, something like
a
that.
city watch.
Yeah. Oh, there's a guy in Florida who he's kind of crazy and he drinks in public and shit. But he actually has this like big metal fist thing that could probably be used to kill someone. It was really outrageous. I forget what his name was.
So what is it? It's like instead of brass knuckles, it's like a brass fist.
It's more like steel, but yeah.
Yeah, I could do
It's
some
like
damage.
the dude took a lead or steel pipe and just wrapped it around his arm or some shit. It's kind of ridiculous. But it's got like a flat end on it. But yeah, no, this dude is crazy as shit. Got bugs flying in front of me.
So did
yeah. Lacrima says, I love how the topic is critiquing the week, but we talked about video games and real life superheroes for the most part. Bo Zaiden's America is such a shit fest, there's nothing to talk about. Yeah, pretty much. I don't see the Taliban as newsworthy. You know, you break your word with some tribal elders, and the tribal elders go apeshit. That's what happens. You give the Taliban power to do what they want, and they're going to do what they want, and what they want is to kill. That's just what they do. It's like, do I expect mosquitoes to not bite? Do I expect tigers not to lunge after bits of meat that I've cut up? Do I expect snails not to foam up when I drop salt on them? Do I expect the wind not to blow? No. Nature exists. Nature just does its thing. Joe Biden being a dumbass and screwing things up, that's just nature. The Taliban beheading people, that's just nature. There's nothing like that, really newsworthy happening.
Yeah, it's like that Geico ad campaign where, you know, it's what you do.
Yeah.
It's like if you're in a horror movie, you make poor decisions.
Yeah. If you're in a horror movie, you make poor decisions.
If you're the band Europe, you like final countdowns.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly right. Take the guns from the citizens, give them to the Taliban. Yeah, and now suddenly I have the urge to watch Red Dawn.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, have you seen the the arsenal that we left behind?
We left behind a lot of shit.
I mean,
a lot of good shit too.
I mean, they now have more capability than a lot of developed countries' militaries have.
Yeah.
And what's the excuse for not getting it out? You extended the deadline. Why? I mean, if anything, you had more time. So it had to have been done on purpose. I mean, that's the simplest explanation for it. That's usually correct.
To destabilize the world. destabilize the region, destabilize us, keep fear going. You know, the Orwellian thing. The Taliban were our allies in the 80s. Well, no, the Taliban have never been our allies. They've always been evil. They have always been bad and done bad things. They've never done anything good. Well, now the Taliban are the good guys again.
Well,
Let's give them our guns.
I think they were. It was because they were the enemies of our enemies, so therefore they were our friends. When in reality,
Yeah.
no, they're just a different enemy. It was basically we had two enemies fighting each other, and we took the side on one of them. It didn't make them any better.
Pretty much. But you know, the Taliban. I will throw this out there. Jet fuel may melt steel beams in conjunction with some friction and vibrational energy, but jet fuel that can do that would burn so hot that no ID card would exist afterwards.
Yeah, they just happen to find the hijackers. Oh, he's perfectly preserved.
Perfectly, not even singed ID card, but the bodies, all the bodies were totally incinerated. Okay, cool story.
Well, have you seen that one? It's a famous video clip of one of the architects that designed the World Trade Center, where and this was in like 2000, where they were doing some documentary on the towers, and he literally said that the buildings were designed to withstand the impact of multiple jetliners possibly crashing into them.
Yeah, but to be fair though, that's a 707, not a 747. Although a 707, I'm not sure how big that actually is. Never actually seen one.
Yeah, it's just yeah, it's wild. It's wild.
So, oh, there was a conspiracy theory I saw about the Twin Towers. Some guy tried to claim that a ray gun of some sort was used to take down the towers.
I'm not sure that one. Yeah.
I do know this. Some of the video of the airplanes is actually fake, and that's
particular
guaranteed.
video?
There's a video that was taken from a lower angle, and it points up towards the buildings, and you can see one of the planes flying towards the Twin Towers. But when it flies where it should be above this one skyscraper, the wing comes right down in front of it, almost a third of the way down the building. And it's like, that's not supposed to happen. That building is closer than that plane. So it kind of shows that the plane itself was a CG object created sometime after the fact.
It's possible. I know for sure that the plane that supposedly hit the Pentagon, there's not a lot of evidence for that.
Yeah, it doesn't exist. You can look at the pictures right afterwards, and there's no plane. There's no plane parts in the crash anywhere.
Well, and then that the only video footage that they've ever released of it, you just see like a blip go by. It looks more like a missile.
Yeah. And there's pictures that were taken that day. Well, also video. But when the plane hits, like 3 of the floors have these little jets of smoke coming out of the windows. But there's one little puff of smoke coming out of like 5 or 6 floors below that. Like they misplaced some explosives.
Yeah, very yeah, there's a lot of irregularities with that. I mean obviously people did die. Um things happened. Um you know what was the result of the 9/11 commission? I forget what they called it. It was like the wall of silence or something, where supposedly
Yeah,
the different agencies weren't sharing intelligence, and that's how it was missed. But I think if anything, it was a convenient thing to happen at that particular time,
yeah,
which is almost why I think we're with Biden's approval in the toilet, and people upset about things that, oh, I mean, what would be the perfect thing to happen in the next year, but some big terrorist attack to
yeah,
unite the country and get everybody behind Biden, and just in time for the midterms.
yeah. I don't think that would work though. I saw an article yesterday. I forget exactly who it was from, but it was from a mainstream source. The title of the article was Americans. It was something to the effect of Americans more outraged about uh, infractions of rights now than at any other time. Uh, yeah, I'm pretty sure it was like an actual journalistic article that was written. I
Well,
believe
I
I
mean, I
saw it
mean,
on the Google homepage, actually.
yeah, I think especially with you know everything going on in the last year. I mean, I think people are definitely more aware of it. It would be interesting to see what they would try to get away with. If there was some other 9/11 like event that happened now. Um, I mean that whole thing led to creation of a new government agency, the Department of Homeland Security, spying, or at least having an excuse to claim that's why they were doing what they were doing.
Yeah. Uh, we really do just live under a totalitarian regime where new agencies spring up and are essentially granted unlimited power. And there's not just one of these. There's multiple. The CIA, the FBI, the DHS, um, the NSA. That's another one. They all take this ridiculous amount of power, which is essentially unlimited. Uh, who is actually controlling us? Who is actually in charge? Because all these agencies seem to have a very similar amount of power. Are they all in competition? Are they all competing for control of things? Or do they all work together? I don't believe that they all work together because they have a lot of overlapping functions.
Well, I mean, certainly with a lot of the agencies you mentioned, there's a lot of overlap, but I mean, that's the nature of government. There's redundancies, and it's not exactly known for being the most efficient system,
Yeah,
whether it comes to management or personnel. It's just more people on the payroll, more people to toe the line. Um, I don't know. I mean, like I said, I hope to God I'm wrong. I don't want to see anything bad happen, but I could see there being some other, terrorist type incident happen, and them even blaming it on, a so-called patriot, like they they tried to set up those guys in Michigan to that were going to kidnap the governor, and allowing the Capitol trespassing to happen.
The Capitol building thing. There's videos of guards literally waving people inside, and we're told that this is an insurrection.
Yeah, well, they didn't charge anybody with that.
Yeah, there was actually a conspiracy in 2016 by some feminists to basically threaten a senator, a U.S. senator, in order to get their policies enacted. And these women were arrested and they were let go.
Well, makes
but
sense.
We still have people sitting in solitary confinement in the modern day, in this year, because they walked through the Capitol building after being waved in by the guards.
Well, I just saw that one shaman guy just got like 3 years.
He just got 3 years?
Yeah.
What for?
The guy wearing the buffalo horns or whatever. Yeah, I think just on. Yeah, so he took a plea deal, and it says he pleaded guilty on Friday to obstructing an official proceeding. It says, what else? Let me see. I thought I had all the. Yeah, he pleaded guilty on Friday to a single felony count of obstructing an official proceeding before Congress.
That's total crap.
So it says under the terms of his deal, Mr. Chansley agreed to accept a recommended 41 to 51 months in prison. He is scheduled to be sentenced on November 17th.
Wow.
Which, I mean, obviously he's been in custody since then. So I mean, I'm sure he'll get credit for time served. But I mean, really, like, who got that much time for like burning down buildings and terrorizing neighborhoods last year?
Exactly. And see, like, that's like 4 years, by the way. 41 to 51 months. That's pretty close to 4 years.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy, and you have other people in there that some of them haven't even been formally charged with a crime.
Yeah, that's wrong. I saw back closer to the beginning of the year, I saw news stories from alternative media proclaiming that people who were arrested at that event have been tortured.
I've heard the same thing.
Worse than Guantanamo Bay. I don't know if it's true. Seems like it could be. Seems like it probably is true.
Yeah,
that's very dystopian.
Yeah, and where's the outrage? I mean, to me, it shouldn't even be. I know everything is political, but if these people were, even if they were leftists, you still should be afforded due process. You shouldn't be. I mean, you should be punished according to the crime, and to be in jail in the United States without even being charged with a crime. I mean, everybody should be outraged about that.
Yeah.
But it's just like, oh well, so what?
They're right wingers. Fuck them. That's basically what the left thinks.
Yeah, I mean, if they were in Guantanamo Bay, well then and they were terrorists, then we would have to look out for their rights. But because they're
Yeah.
American citizens, the hell with them.
Because they disagree with us while being American citizens. Yeah. They're not Muslim, but they are right wing. Because Islam is a pretty far right ideology.
Yeah, I think
Politically,
most people in the most people on the right in the United States are pretty moderate when compared to some of these guys in some of those other countries.
yeah. It's like why does the left defend Islam so much? Why does the left defend Muslims so much? They literally Quranic literalism is worse than biblical literalism. It's worse than Mormon literalism. It's worse than Scientology taken literally. Quranic literalism literally calls for the brutal, savage murder of everyone who does not agree with Islam and refuses to become Muslim.
Yeah, that's a very that's a very interesting political alliance, I guess, in the United States. I mean, maybe the left looks at them as being oppressed or being a minority, so therefore by default they're going to be on their side.
It is funny. The left acknowledges that Muslims are a minority in the United States, but every time you get into a debate with the left about the hazard of Islam, they just kind of go, "Oh, there's 1.6 billion Muslims in the world, and the world isn't burning, so Muslims must be pretty peaceful, right?" But they shift the goalposts there. They're bringing up a total tangent because we're talking about Muslims in the U.S. We're talking about Muslims in European countries. We're not talking about Muslims in the Middle East right now. But if you do want to bring up Muslims in the Middle East, look at this war we've been having for the last 20 years. Look at all the violent shit that the Muslims have been doing during that time. And it's not just in Afghanistan and not just in Iraq. It's the entire, Muslim region, the entire Middle Eastern region and Arab region, which is North Africa. But they bring this up and they leave out that, they will literally cut off your hands if they think you've stolen something from them.
Yeah, I guess they don't have the rule where if you steal less than $950, well, we'll just let you go.
Yeah. Yeah,
and
the LGBT crowd, the left sides with Islam. Islam would throw those people off buildings and set them on fire. They're supporting people who hate them. Yeah, exactly. Well, it's about being oppressed. They want to be oppressed. The left wants to be oppressed. So when they talk about how hateful and bigoted right-wingers are in the United States, and they realize that we aren't like that, they want to import Muslims so that they can have people actually hating them and oppressing them, so that then they can more easily call themselves victims.
Yeah, it's Lacrame brings up a good point about what was quickly memory hold was the shooting a little while back in Boulder, Colorado, at that grocery store, where it was initially reported as a white male, and then it turned out to be a guy from like Syria or something. Which, I mean, if you want to, I mean, and they say, well, technically they're Caucasian. It's like, well, when that's not what they're talking about when they talk about a white guy, you know what I mean? So it was like, oh, well, once it came out that he was Muslim, that story, nope, can't talk about it.
They are Caucasoid. Arabs are Caucasoid, but they're not Caucasian. There is a difference there.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So it's just funny, you know. They'll twist and contort themselves to try to make some logical sense when it doesn't, you know. And
But
it
to
turns
be
out,
fair, they tried calling George Zimmerman this Hispanic guy who looks very Hispanic, looks like he just came to the nation. You know, he looks like like he's a pure-blooded Hispanic person. You know, and they're like, oh, he's white,
right?
and
He
he's
was
a white supremacist.
yeah, it's yeah. That was they. Yeah, they really went overboard with that whole thing. When it's like, if you look at, I mean, just look at the guy. It's like it obviously flies in the face of the narrative that they were trying to establish with that, and that was really the sort of genesis of the whole like Black Lives Matter movement was around that same time,
Yeah,
and it just, it didn't matter if it's like the dude that shot those people at those massage parlors, they had to say it was because they were Asian, when it's like, no, we can establish a clear motive for why this guy who apparently he was upset because he had a sex addiction and thought that these places were contributing to that, so he went there and shot him up. It wasn't because they were of a certain ethnicity. It was because of that. So
yeah.
but they don't want to talk about the fact that most crime against Asian people is committed by people who aren't white. So
Yeah. Well, most crime in general is committed by people who aren't white. But don't dare state that fact, because that comes from the FBI's crime statistics and the DOJ's crime statistics.
I actually, it's funny you say that, because I believe I saw a statistic that said literally 98% of the murders in New York City are committed by people who aren't white.
Pretty much, yeah.
I mean, which is,
you look at the national statistics. You literally go to the FBI website themselves, and you find the numbers. Black people overwhelmingly commit homicide and violent crime. They overwhelmingly commit all the crime. Well, almost all the crime. Facts are racist. Reality is fucked up. It's not perfectly equal. But
and also most of the people
comes straight from the FBI website, the FBI statistics. So, like, when I see people saying that those numbers were debunked, I'm like, no, they weren't. You're full of shit.
Yeah, and even if you break it down further, most of those aren't, I mean, it's not 70-year-olds, 80-year-olds that are killing people. It's not little kids. It's, if you take like black men between like 18 and 32, it's like that's where the crime is happening by and large. So it's a subset of a subset, which is why
when you look at white people, it is actually mostly the men committing murders.
Well, yeah, it's funny how that never gets mentioned.
There was that's actually really funny. There was a meme that I saw. It actually, there's been two of them. I forgot about this because there were two different versions of this meme, but one of them was Spider-Man 2, this part where Peter Parker is talking with Dr. Ock, and Doc Ock is basically just like, men commit Men are arrested for murder more often than women are. Therefore, the system is systemically sexist against men. And
Yeah.
then Peter's like, but men commit more murder, so we should expect to see them locked up. And Doc Ock is basically like, uh, that's racist or something like that. It brings up African Americans, but it's pretty funny. It's actually better than I just put it. Way better than I just put it. It's actually a meme.
Yeah, well, it's like, yeah, nobody mentions the fact that when they talk about how a disproportionate number of minorities are in prison. Well, you also don't talk about the fact that 95% of the prison population is men, even though men are
Yeah,
only 50% of the population. So therefore, the criminal justice system is anti-men, right?
yeah.
I mean, no,
It's
but
the
it's like,
same logic. It's the
yeah,
same logic. Men commit more of the crime, and that's why men make up more of the convicts. Blacks commit more of the crime. That's why blacks make up more of the convicts. Of
right. You
course, that's
don't
not
you don't
even
have
true. Whites actually outnumber blacks in convictions. It's just that blacks have a higher percentage of crimes committed. I mean,
which is very interesting, particularly when you look at gun crime. The left likes to say, well, it's a health emergency, it's a national crisis, and it really isn't. If you actually look at gun crime, it's actually incredibly concentrated in like a dozen. I mean, it's almost like you could break it down by zip code, and
yeah,
you can see it's super. Like I think like half the counties in the country had zero murders in the last year. So it's
yeah.
like when
Most
you look at
places don't even have murder.
yeah, I
Like
mean when you look at
that's almost exclusively a city dweller issue.
yeah, exactly. I mean, you look at it's Baltimore, it's St.
Yeah,
Louis, it's Detroit,
Baltimore.
it's Chicago, or yeah, Chicago. I think even like I think Shreveport, Louisiana was one of them, but there's like 12 to 15 places where like 85% of all the gun crime happens.
Yeah, and it's almost always a big city that's been ruled by leftists for the past 60 years.
Yeah, it's and and they'll say I think Memphis was one of them. So it's like
Yeah,
so
Memphis.
like some people will say, oh well, it happens in these red states, but it's like it's in the blue parts of the red states. It's
Yeah,
not in like, it's like even if it's in a red state, it's in a blue part of a red state. So
yeah.
it's like in Chicago, the mayor says, oh well, it's the reason why we have so much gun crime here is because Indiana has lax gun laws. So people go to Indiana and get their guns and come back, and it's like, okay, well, why don't they have a gun problem in Indiana?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, no, it's the people that live there. So we need to punish the people in Indiana and take away their guns because people come from Illinois to Indiana and buy the guns and take them back. So therefore we need to take them from everybody living in Indiana. It's like doesn't make sense.
Yeah, there's a simpler solution that doesn't remove the authoritarianism, and that would be to confiscate guns which are being smuggled in. Tighten up that border security.
Well, well, the left doesn't believe in borders, I guess, right? I mean,
No borders, just tons of gun laws and you know censorship laws.
pretty much, yeah. It's just yeah, because I mean, even I, I mean, I was a little surprised to see how concentrated that gun crime really is, and it's like if you just focused on these areas, like you could cut the gun crime down by, where it would be insignificant. But
Yeah, I think it was
what
like
the
the U.S. is number 4 in gun crime worldwide. But if you remove 5 cities, the 5 largest and most blue cities in the states, uh, we're like number 16 from the bottom or something along those lines.
it's why they call it Chirac, right? And then what they don't say too is like 80% of the murders in Chicago are never solved. It's just another another young black kid dead. They like to say, well, Black Lives Matter, but apparently not.
Yeah, it's all destabilization operations.
Yeah, that's another place where like Illinois. If you look at the election map, it's like Chicago's blue and like the rest of the state's red. But
Yeah.
there's so many people in Chicago that it basically cancels out everybody else in the state.
Yeah, oh, there's a video I saw. Um, I believe it was Chicago, but it was the title of the video was like Chicago at night, and it's just a dude who like parked under a bridge, and he's listening at each street corner, and there's just gunshots at all times throughout the video. Like, and there's like different kinds of gunshots too. And at some point, he's like, "Oh, saw the guy go across the street there," and apparently there was a guy like shooting his gun off while he was going across the street.
Yeah, like there's places in Chicago where the cops won't even go. It's like, oh, so somebody gets killed. Oh, okay, well we'll send somebody there to pick up the body, but there's
Yeah,
no
there's
reports.
no go zones for the police.
Yeah, it's like I think at one point Trump was talking about like, and you can debate the merits of it, but I think he literally wanted to like send the military into like certain parts of Chicago to like get a handle on the situation and stop that from happening. I mean,
Yeah,
I don't know what the answer. I mean, what else do you do? I mean, how do you fix it? I mean, New York had the right idea when with Rudy Giuliani back in the day when they called it racist, but you had the stop and frisk law, and that basically took murders down to very low levels and crime in
yeah.
general.
Uh, the interesting thing is that most of these blue places are praising China. And if China ever got a hold of the United States, uh, or these people, they'd be working without pay in buxomite mines. I always mispronounce that for some reason. China actually enslaves people and puts them to work in mines. Most of these people they don't have the skills to make it in China. But they want to go to China because they hear it's a magical place.
Yeah, I mean, it gets whitewashed. I mean, you don't have like a media in China where things can be reported on. So what little we do know is bad. I mean, we know about the suicide nets in the factories.
We know about
Um,
the cage homes. We know about the genocide. We know about the enslavement.
yeah, and I think it was when in Wuhan when they had the initial supposed outbreak of COVID. Oh, did Howie get kicked out here? I don't know. Hopefully he'll come back. Um, but in what I believe they were like, here he comes.
Well, that was not good.
There you are. Yeah, I figured you got kicked out there.
I don't know what just happened there. Uh, that was very
Well,
very odd.
well, I was saying in the initial outbreak of COVID in the Wuhan area, they were like welding people inside their apartments.
Yeah,
It's like,
and there were some people who died in fires because of that.
yeah,
It's just bad. But there is one thing I think I've talked with you about this before. But the one thing that I would actually want to see China do again is bring back Kowloon Walled City. Like that's a dystopia, but that's a cyberpunk dystopia. That's the kind of dystopia we want.
they had an actual walled city.
It's called Kowloon Walled City. And if you look at pictures of this thing back in like the 80s and 90s, it got taken down in 1994, but it was like it was a cyberpunk dystopia. It was really it's just so interesting. It's like a mixture between positive and negative. Like there was no government, no proper certifications on the buildings and whatnot, no proper plumbing, no AC.
I'm
But it
looking
was
at pictures of it now.
but
Yeah.
but it was anarcho-capitalist. It was run by the triads too, but it was anarcho-capitalist, and everyone remembers it fondly. Like people who live there are like, yeah, that was one of the greatest things I've ever done is live there. And it's like there's documentaries you can watch where people are walking through and they're like, I just felt a drop on my head. I don't know if that was condensation or sewage.
Oh, yeah, that's maybe they would have been better off having a proper plumbing system there. But
Yeah,
why did they get rid of it? Do you know? Like what?
it was an eyesore to the Chinese government and also the British government. It was an eyesore and it was an embarrassment because people, could basically go in there and get away from the police.
Oh, I see. So it looks like it was within Hong Kong, which I guess
Yeah,
would.
it was inside of Hong Kong, but it was its own city. It was about 6 acres, um, and if it had continued to expand out to a whole square kilometer, it would have been the most densely populated place on Earth. It would have had a population of 2.2 million per square kilometer.
Yeah, geez, it looks like some of these like buildings are gonna like topple over. It's like,
Yeah, it looks scary as all hell. But I watched hours of documentary footage on this thing. It's sturdy, and it's actually a whole city. Like it's almost as if it was one building because it's just so dark and you always have something overhead, pretty much. But
so according to this, it had a population of about 50,000 within about 6 acres.
yeah, and that's just an estimate. The lowest estimates of people of residents of the city was 35,000, and that was considered to be shocking. But the higher estimates are like 50 to 55,000, and yeah, and that's people living there. Because you got to remember that they also have shops, they also have churches in this place, They also have brothels and business places, mostly industrial. Oh, it was interesting. The documentaries I watched, they showed some of the industry that took place inside was using like 100-year-old machines, 100 or 200-year-old machines that were basically just antiques that
Wow.
someone got for cheap and decided to use in an actual factory.
Yeah, it would sound like a place where if you could jump back in time and go wander around there.
Yeah, and there was an arcade in Japan that actually had parts of Kowloon Walled City replicated, but that arcade shut down in 2019.
Interesting. Yeah, that just sounds like a yeah, like a cyberpunk or
Yeah,
some kind of
and
interesting.
apparently there were white people living in there too, and not just British people, like people who moved in there from the United States.
Yeah, I could see if you're like 20 years old and you just want to spend a couple years there and then come back. I don't know.
But yeah, Kowloon Walled City is very interesting stuff to me, and there's a book on it that I want to get, but it's pretty expensive. It's a full color photo book, complete with like interviews and historical documentation of the city.
Yeah, so apparently they have a park where it used
Oh
to
yeah, yeah.
used to
There's a park there now with there's an interactive video display thing that sort of shows what Kowloon used to be like, but it's nothing like the Japanese arcade that did that. Um, and like I just want to see that place rebuilt and walk through it. That would be cool as shit. I'd love to do that. That's the one good thing that I think China has put out in the past 40 years.
well, and that was in Hong Kong. I mean, at the time, it
Yeah,
wasn't even technically
it
under
was.
Chinese control. You know.
Yeah, although Kowloon Walled City was technically never under British control either.
So it was considered part of China. China controlled China, I guess.
Well, it was considered its own thing for a while.
Well,
China didn't control it. The British didn't control it. It was under the British domain. It was in the area that Britain owned and controlled, but they didn't take care of it. They didn't do anything about
according to what I'm seeing, it says it was ungoverned.
it. Yeah, it was. It was ungoverned.
Yeah. Wow. I've never heard of it. Yeah, I'm gonna have to.
It's for real. Like on YouTube, you can watch documentary footage of this place. Like,
Yeah, it really does. It looks like one. Like I don't even see. I don't even see much room for like businesses and stuff. It looks just like
oh,
one
it's a
massive.
lot bigger than it looks on that picture. I know which picture you're looking at, but it's a lot bigger than it looks. It looks pretty small there. But
Yeah.
if you look at the documentaries and whatnot, you can see how big it really is. It's pretty sizable. There's businesses all over. But there's actually multiple documentaries because there's documentaries made in the early '80s. Like there was one made in 1981 that I saw, and another made in 1984. Then there was one, uh, but it had like an Austrian uh, narrator. Uh, but it was 1988 or 1989. And then there was also one in 1992 that I saw, and another one, I believe 1994 or
Got
1993
some.
actually.
It's got some pretty good footage in it.
Yeah, there's a lot of good footage, but there's not enough of it because there needs to be more. This thing is so fascinating to me.
Yeah, yeah. It sounds perfect for the time, like the just before before in a pre-internet, smartphone world. It sounds perfect.
Yeah. Oh, Kowloon Walled City was featured in the movie Bloodsport with
Okay.
Jean-Claude Van Damme. Because he actually, there's a part where he, I guess, goes to China and it is supposed to have this fight inside of the walled city. And so they actually go to the walled city and they have footage of the walled city. It's very,
Very
very
interesting.
interesting. Have you seen that the Monster Building in Hong Kong?
Not familiar with it. No.
You can type it in. You can actually look for it as the Monster Building, China's Monster Building. But I believe it was in one of the Transformers movies. But it looks very similar to parts of the walled city.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah. Yeah.
That's also
Something
very
tells me that wouldn't pass muster in the United States with building codes and
Oh,
such.
I think it would. I've seen video of the inside of that one. Oh, Kowloon Walled City would definitely not pass at all. But the Monster Building, I believe, would actually pass.
Interesting. Yeah. So is it like government housing or what?
No, it's you pay for it. It's capitalist housing, but it's just a big, gigantic building, an
So I
apartment building.
I picture these like 400 square foot apartments. Like are they bigger or
Like 10 square meter apartments. So closer to like 30 feet, 30 square feet. Yeah.
wow.
Yeah, it's China's in a bad place. China is a bad place.
Oh well, yeah, yeah. You have the same NBA players that trash the United States. They bend the knee for China.
Yeah.
That's where they get a lot of their money from.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was surprised to learn that. Yeah, there's some NBA players that have like 30-40 million dollar contracts with Chinese companies that you've never heard of.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Well, you had that wrestler actor guy John Cena. Remember when he issued an apology because I think he referred to Taiwan as a country
Yeah.
and then had to
Yeah,
basically
Taiwan
grovel.
is the real China.
Yeah,
We
pretty
need to
much.
drop the recognition of mainland. Communists aren't people, so they can't have nations.
Well, you know what they say. The only good commie is a what commie.
A dead
So
one. Yeah.
yeah, which I mean, we could totally do without China.
Oh yeah.
What we need to start doing now is one building our own stuff, and for the
Hmm.
stuff that can't easily be replicated here, you have India, you have Vietnam, you have all these
Have
other
Africa.
Yeah,
But
Africa.
see,
Well,
the problem is that right now, you would have to compete with China in order to have Africa. Because
there's a
China,
lot of Africans that want the Chinese out.
yeah, there are, but the Chinese have also done a lot of good for the Africans. They've built infrastructure. They're essentially racking up debt from these third world countries. But the point of it is to get the third world countries to like them, basically, and support them.
So I guess when the European countries did it, it was bad, but when the Chinese do it, it's good.
Yeah, well, it's just bad all around. Well, I mean, it's good and bad all around, but it's worse because China is China. It's worse because China is communist.
Yeah, well, it was a very interesting quote I heard one time from Jackie Chan, where he basically came out and said that freedom wouldn't be good for China. I don't know how I feel about that, but I mean, is it? I mean, do the people there like want a democracy, or I mean, what kind of government would work there? I mean, in that
Well,
culture, in that part of the world.
Hong Kong definitely wants democracy. Uh, that's what those riots were all about. But the most of the people there, they only know totalitarianism. So giving them freedom would not work out too well. China is one of those places that had a monarch. So shifting from monarchy to some more free system is very rough, actually. It even
Yeah,
took Europe a long time to do it.
I wonder if we'll, in our lifetimes, if we'll ever see that, or will China just forever be, communist and
They're probably always gonna. Well, I mean, maybe. The way I see it, most of the systems on Earth right now would not change internally. They need some external source in order to pressure them into changing. If not to come in and take control and change everything as an outsider.
yeah, very interesting. I don't see anybody invading China.
Oh, I could see it. I could actually see it.
Maybe India, or who's who's gonna take the lead.
Well, it wouldn't happen until we have a proper alliance system set up, but I could see that happening very, very shortly, actually. Let's say that the U.S. and India get together. The U.S., France, and India, let's just say, get together and decide they want to invade China. China's invaded. And I say France because I've seen the ships that France have, and I have high hopes for them. France,
Yeah,
the French Navy right now could, I mean, if they got a little bit more produced, they could actually rival the United States Navy. They've got some advanced stuff.
that would be like another world war.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we are overdue for that. History repeats itself, and we've gone through cycles of history all throughout time. And, we are overdue for some large genocide or massive scaled war. It just hasn't happened, but it looks like it's probably going to happen. And you know what? I say the sooner that it does happen, the better, because the sooner it happens, the faster we can go back to fixing shit.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I'm assuming we would be on the side this time with the Japanese, or they would be on our side, depending on how
Oh
you look
yeah.
at it.
Oh yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
by the way, the Japanese military has been making some bad decisions. Although I can kind of understand why they've done it. Um, they have tanks, which are kind of an outdated design. Uh, these tanks have these balls on the corners and sides that open up so you can point a rifle out of it and aim and shoot people on the sides like that. But that's an outdated design because we tend to focus on armor and sensory equipment these days. You know that those balls just make weak points on the armor.
yeah, yeah. It
But
doesn't sound like they
I
have.
can kind of see some usage for it. Like if they were to have martial law themselves, or if they were to deploy onto mainland China, uh, those could actually come in handy because uh, the vast majority of the people fighting them, uh, and especially the citizens, uh, don't have enough firepower to pierce even a thin sheet of metal. Most of the military just has small small caliber rifles.
Right. Yeah, they don't have a big they don't have a Second Amendment in Japan.
Yeah, they don't have a Second Amendment in China either.
Well, I know China's obviously they did away with their one child policy, and I think now they're encouraging their citizens to have kids.
Yeah, they're trying to fix their mistake because uh, China, their military has been weakened a lot simply because every one of their soldiers is an only child and therefore a spoiled brat who needs to be pampered. Um, the interesting thing is that oh yeah, I forgot to mention this. This is what I was thinking of just now, and also back in my China meta-analysis thing. People aren't voluntary there. They get issued jobs. So all their military officers are not there by choice. They're there by design. They are chosen at birth to go off and be soldiers, basically. Well, not
Hmm.
at birth, but once they hit their teenage years.
So they give them like some kind of assessment, and they say, "Well, you're good at this, so you're going to do that, and you're good at this, so you're going to do this
Yeah,
other thing."
pretty much. And no, this is actually something that I totally forgot about China while I was making those videos. They issue people jobs. I mean, yeah, the parents raise them and all that, but then they get to the age where they can work, and so the government comes in and just says, "Here, you do this." We're getting close to an hour and 45 now.
Yeah, it's flying by here. Yeah.
Yeah. And we have no viewers, but that's okay. We had viewers for most of this. So yeah, China bad, Biden bad, New World Order bad, perfected utilitarian system order, perhaps. Actually, what I would like to do is set up a test of the PUS. PUS for short, yes. Perfected utilitarian system. Because we all need some puss in our life.
Yeah. What kind of test would you propose? Like in
Well, something along the lines of Slab City, like totally voluntary. You can come in, but you have to live by the rules if you come in. If you don't want to live by the rules, you can leave. You have to leave if you don't want to live by the rules. And probably somewhere farther away from civilization, though. Like ideally, out of the hands, out of the reach of local police departments, so people can get away with doing drugs and whatever, prostituting. Probably out on a boat in the middle of the Caribbean or something, in international waters.
You could have like a floating city.
Yeah. Floating city as a test site, yeah. So any last remarks before we end this?
Yeah, I mean, I think we about covered it. I mean, there's not.
We didn't hit the conspiracy theories as much this week.
You never know what. See, that's why people have to watch these streams, because you never know which direction it's going to go in. I mean, we could start out talking about one thing, and then we end up talking about something completely different. So,
yeah, that's probably a good thing, though. That's more entertaining. It's more fluid and natural.
Well, I'll say this: no two streams here are going to be the same.
Yeah.
So they're all going to have their own spin, their own flavor. So you're never going to get the same thing twice here.
Yeah. All right. So thank you to everybody for watching. I completely forgot to fill the description with Joe's channel, but I'll get that done.
Check it out.
Peace.